for the most part, I've actually been doing stuff professionally since 2006 when I worked inside an airbrush shop in high school. So I've been around the creative professional environment mainly half my life, because I started at 15. I was painting cars and motorcycles by 19. So I've really had a nice freelance career. Well, not just freelance career. I've worked for different design firms as well. And I got national notoriety around 2014, 2015 after doing Art Basel. And then from there, I gained celebrity clientele, ended up in a few magazines and stuff like that. The list goes on, but I don't want to bore you guys. So if you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to ask.
Bee1ne actually had one of his first exhibits at Wild Goose Creative back in 2014,
Correct.
right? Yeah.
Yep. That's actually that's the show that actually got me the notoriety. So the show I did in 2014 at Wild Goose when it was on Summit, that show actually got seen by Conception Gallery in New York, and they were doing a showcase in Miami for Art Basel, and they seen my work on Instagram. This is before you had to pay for promo and all that. This was when Instagram was still very organic, which I miss those days, because I actually feel that I had more work then. Well, I get work now, but should I say from Instagram, you know. But for the most part, yeah, they seen me and end up telling me like that the week after my show, which was November 1st, the week after my show, they said, hey, we're doing a showcase in Miami. I didn't know anything about Art Basel at the time. And they were like, can you get to Miami? You know, no, of course I didn't have the funds all the way together. This is a story people don't know, but my first night in Miami, I actually slept on the beach, you know, because
Seriously?
because the hotel rooms were so expensive. But I'm so glad that I did, because I made that sacrifice and it literally catapulted my career. You know, so I mean, I'm no stranger to danger. I'm from the east side of Cleveland, so. But I don't recommend that for everybody, because. But yeah, I definitely slept on Ocean Drive, right there on the bench.
Wow.
On a bench that night. I took all my bags to the hotel first, and then I just act like I was going about, because you know I flew in early, and you know the hotels will let you bring your bags to the check-in counter before check-in. So all I did was, hey, we don't have the rooms available yet. Can't check in until 3. They didn't know that I wasn't checking in until tomorrow. So I just took my bags. I had my book bag, my sketchbook, and I had a couple $, and because the rooms at Miami, they inflate them, you know, during Art Basel. So a room that is usually $130 is now $250 a night. So, you know, I paid for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Check out Monday, but that Thursday, I was like, I got down there and I had to start setting up and stuff. So that first night, I slept on the beach. Yeah.
Wow, that's like a movie.
Got a couple drinks on Ocean Drive, and after that, just sketched the sketchbook, and you know, took it down. Fell asleep right there. You know, when I woke up, somebody actually put $20 on me. Like, you know, I got breakfast that morning with that, you know, but after that, like, I took a shower, got to the hotel, took a shower, and literally crashed until that night when I had to live paint, you know, and that was a whole nother world, like, being a part of that, because even the show that I had that Friday night when I was live painting, it was at this, like, it was like it was a different type of hotel. It was like a boutique hotel. It was almost like the Moxie, but like on 10. And they actually charged $100 per ticket to get in to the event. So at first I was like, I don't have the money to get into this event that these coordinators were telling me to come to. And I told the guy, I said, well, they're supposed to have me painting tonight. You know, this is a different world. They're supposed to have me painting tonight. Oh, you're Ryan Anthony? Oh, come on in. So this was a whole nother world, like mind blown. You know, I'm around all these rich people, $100. I wouldn't pay $100 to get inside of an event. And probably to this day, I wouldn't. So I don't know, maybe. But this was in 2014. And, you know, it was a lot of experiences that I had never been a part of during that time, and it really catapulted my career. Like I
That's
said, I was
amazing.
already doing stuff professionally, but Art Basel gave me, national notoriety.
Wonderful. Yeah, well, I'm super excited to continue talking about how your career has just really flourished, and how you build your client base and steward those relationships. So that's awesome. Felicia, would you like to go next? Felicia is going to be in our upcoming gallery show. On the opening is this Friday at 400 West Rich. So I'll put that information in the link too. But yeah,
All right.
Felicia, tell us about yourself.
Thank you. So my name's Felicia Dunson. I go by FDZ Graffiti. I am a graffiti pop art. I have a background in fashion and just like a fine arts background. So I kind of have like an interesting experience. So I started off really young as an artist as well. I came up through like the Shortstop Youth Center and Transit Art. So I have a lot of friends and associates from like the Fort Hayes art community. You know, I had some great mentors as well. And my first job was, I was a graphic designer when I was 13. Then I also wanted to get into modeling. So I actually kind of took off more with modeling opportunities and like doing runway. I've done Brooklyn Fashion Week, Columbus Fashion Week. I used to model for Terry Stevens, who is now a designer for Louis Vuitton. And so what's happened more recently, just to kind of like fast forward, things really took off last year during the Black Lives Matter movement. Even though I had been doing shows and things over the years, and like doing shows in nightclubs or doing some shows in New York, and just sort of like in this underground era, hip hop expos and stuff like that. A lot of opportunities came up with being able to display my artwork through GCAC. I've also done shows with Creative Women of Color. I'm a member of Creative Women of Color, done some stuff through the King Arts Complex. And, you know, things just really kind of boosted off as I started to kind of plug in and implement some of the things that we're going to be talking about today. So it's really like a new success for me, even though I've been an artist like all my life, and I've been exhibiting art since I was in the 4th grade. It's just, I'm just now really like arriving in a space where people know who I am before I'm introducing myself to them. So that's really fun and exciting, but I'll kind of keep it short. So
yeah, that's great. That's really great. Well, thanks for being here. And then last but not least is Ryan Deeter, who is an expert aficionado at leveraging relationships and building his client base and the real estate industry. And I mean, I have learned so much from him and how he navigates relationships. And I think that regardless of what your industry is, he is a great mentor and just a really great person to learn from. So Ryan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, well, thanks, Lydia, for that intro. I don't know if I can top that. Yeah, and my story is not really as exciting as the artist. I'm obviously in real estate, and I actually kind of joke that I have no artistic ability in me, but I appreciate art, and I've always appreciated. I actually married into a family that's all artist, which has been fun to be around it and to learn the art side of things. But a little bit about me is my background is I got into sales kind of by accident. I backed into it. I was right after college, moved to a city that I knew no one in, and had no plan really. Was working at a restaurant and decided that was not for me. So long story short, I ended up taking a job at a gym, doing personal training, thinking like, oh, I can do this. But I was definitely afraid of the sales side of it. But then I learned that I actually really enjoyed sales. It was actually my favorite part about it. And then within the first year of my first full year at that company, there was about 300 trainers throughout the city. And this is in St. Louis at the time. The first full year, I became the top session server of all of about 300 trainers there. So just fell in love with the idea of sales. And it was basically just because I saw sales as a way to help people. So fast forward a couple years later, about 3 or 4 years later, my wife and I decided just to up and move to Columbus to be a little closer to family. We're originally from Dayton. And so we wanted to be closer to family. She was working remotely at the time. So we're like, well, we can move to any city. I knew I could, I could land on my feet wherever I went because I was able to start a practice, so I can start over. I knew it would be, kind of that step backwards, but I can still, again, continue to build that practice. So again, we moved to a city in Columbus where we really didn't know anyone in Columbus. We're from an hour and a half away and didn't really have any friends or family that lived in Columbus itself. But we decided to make the leap, moved here, got a job at a gym, and quickly became, just successful there as well. The top trainer, and that it was a smaller, company, but I became the top trainer in that company as well within my first full year. And then kind of, again, through the back door, got into some investing opportunities with real estate and fell in love with real estate. I've always kind of loved houses, but never thought of it as a job. Fell in love with real estate, had several people talk to me about becoming a realtor, and I fought it for a little while, saying, no, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that salesperson again, just that image of a real estate agent. But then I decided to, what the heck, at least I can save some money on my end. Got into the business, made my first sale, and decided to go full time and haven't looked back since. What I learned about real estate is that one, everybody loves to talk about it, but there's a realtor in everyone knows a realtor. You can't throw a stone without hitting one here in Columbus. But you could really stand out if you do some things right, and that's what I think what we're going to talk about tonight is how to actually take care of people and how you view people. Makes the world of a difference. And I was able to steadily grow my practice year after year, just continue to grow and see success with that. So I'm excited to share kind of with you guys how you guys can kind of successfully and kind of predict how to continue to grow your business and by taking care of people and actually not feel like you're selling people, but actually providing value for people.
That's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So that leads us into our first question, which is, I'm going to ask two questions. First is, how do you define client? Like, what does a client mean to you? And how did you go about growing or how did you start building your client base? So let's see. Felicia, do you want to start off with this question?
Yeah, that's fine. So I think essentially what a client is somebody that you're providing a service to, not just in the art industry, but obviously like Ryan, as a realtor, you're providing a service to this person. So our ultimate goal is to monetize what we're doing. It's nice to be putting pictures on the internet, but why are you doing it? So I think it starts with when you have one client or you have one person who comes to you and says, hey, can you do this thing for me? Can you paint this? Can you design this? Can you provide this service? I think what's really essential is the relationship that you build with that client is going to lead to another relationship with another client. You'll be able to refer to the services that you provided. There are also ways that you can use services like Yelp and things like that, where people can give you reviews. But ultimately, it's word of mouth. So you get your first client, you do a great job with that client, you continue to engage them as well. So I'll send out flyers like, okay, I'm going to have this art show that's coming up, or I'm going to be a part of this fundraiser, to continue to reach back and reconnect with those people. Or, in my cases, I do a lot of murals. I'll make sure to actually go into those spaces where I've done murals, interact with the customers that they have there, or even make an event out of it. That's really how I personally grew my client base. Was, I started doing live art in high school at these like nightclub poetry events. And I knew that by me standing there painting, it would give me an opportunity to introduce myself directly to people. This is also before, I don't want to show my age, but this is before Instagram and before we were really like using social media as a tool as we use it today. It was really about shaking hands and, kissing babies and stuff like that. So I'll just kind of summarize it. So that's how I started my client base, is by actually putting myself in front of people and giving people an opportunity to recognize, who I am. And this is what I do,
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned events because that's a really practical way to bring people into your space and allow them to start seeing what you're doing. That's really great. And then, get email addresses and start to build those relationships, because ultimately it's like getting those contacts, and then you can start to build your relationship with all of those people. B1, what about you? How do you define client, and how did you start building your base?
Organic, organic, organic. I can't stress that enough. The thing is, a lot of people, they're really salesy. I noticed that with Instagram right now, and no, let's be honest, nobody really likes to be sold to. And I learned that early on. Um, so a lot of the stuff, the same thing what Felicia was saying, referrals, and I build an experience with each client. So honestly, I make every client feel like they're $1 million client. No matter how much money they're spending. If you spend 150 with me, I'm going to make sure you feel like the celebrity clientele that I have, and vice versa. So with everything that I do, I try to create an experience. And also, I did a lot of live shows as well. What really catapulted me with clientele is the body painting events. So those really got people's attention, and it was really for the wow effect. To be honest, it was really because art is almost like you can push that boundary of controversy as well, and let's be honest, sex sells. So that it worked in my favor, with that, with the body painting events. And I also did a lot of live painting events at nightclubs like Shadowbox Live and stuff like that. And after a while, like now, I'm not so quick to jump on live painting events anymore, unless the money is, worth it. And that's up to you to, at a point in your career, to know what you'll do and what you won't. So, because it's a lot of stuff before that I did that I won't now. But, just organic relationships with all your clients, and knowing what you want from your career and how you want to grow it as well. So make a plan. I made a plan on even the type of clients that I want to have, and so my clientele has changed a lot over the years. And it's not that I don't have some of those old clients. What happened was when my prices went up, some of the clients actually faded away, and that's going to happen, and that's okay, and we have to realize that. So don't sell yourself short because you're trying to keep old clients. If they don't respect your value, and if they don't respect your growth, let them go. And you have to be honest with yourself, because you can stay at a plateau position. And I did that for 5 years, and it was grueling, because it was like, oh, how I'm going to pay my rent. Oh, I can't go to the store to buy paint, stuff like that, because you're running this hamster wheel. So we have to also remember the clientele that we do want, who is going to pay, who takes your art serious, or whatever you do. Like Ryan, I'm pretty sure Ryan is not dealing with somebody who's going to haggle with him on a house that he knows he's already probably, put work into, or drop the price maybe. I don't know. But you have to know the clientele that you want, who's going to spend the money with you, who's going to respect your craft. So those are the clients that you want. Never sell yourself short, no matter what you're doing. And especially in the art world, because now we have to remember that art at a point in time was such a prestigious thing, to where the wealthy only could afford art. But now, everybody can. And us artists have over the years done stuff for so cheap, for free, and for supplies, to the point where now everybody think it's easy, accessible. Or if you charge for your work, or if someone wants a portrait or something, and they say, hey, can you draw this for me? And yeah, well, it's going to be this. Oh, how dare you charge me for that? So it's almost like people are entitled to getting free art as well, you know? So don't let that be you. Don't do too many favors, even for family members. I charge my mom. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's good. That's
You know,
good.
but you know who put that in my head was my mother. So the thing is, when I was young, you know, when I was 14 and I started airbrushing, and she asked for a shirt. She wanted a shirt, and I made my mom a shirt, and she gave me $20. And I was like, no, Ma, it's cool, you know. No, she said, no, I'm paying you so that you understand that everybody has to pay you. If your mother pays you, everybody got to pay. At this point, she said, I birthed you, so if I'm paying, everybody has to pay. And at the time, I didn't understand. I was like, I don't want to charge my mom. I don't want to charge my mom.
Keep it real, Mom.
But later on, guess what? I was able to say, which wasn't a lie, to people, hey man, I charge my mama, pay me. And it's guys who's like, whoa, man, you did what? You charge your mom, bro? Yeah, I did. You know, not telling them the story, of course, all the way, but that's still the truth, you know, that I charge my mom, you know, and she pays to this day with what my worth is. Or now she cracks jokes and she said, hey,
your mom is awesome, by the way. I met your mom. She's
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did. And now she says, like, you know what? Let me work this off. You know, so one of my canvas prints was $450, and she wanted it, and she gave me $200, and she ended up coming to take pictures for me, like during all the protests when I was painting. So she was like, "How about I photograph you all day?" It's like, okay, cool. You know, and some of those images, guess what? I used on my Instagram.
Right.
Like, so my mom took some of those photos actually. So
was that when we were painting that GCAC?
That's when, that's when we did
yeah.
that GCAC, and then also she did it again when we were at Madison on 5th and High. You know, so she worked off her print. So, you know, that's why it's like when people ask me for deals and stuff, it's like, nah, I can't do that, because honestly, it's disrespectful to me and it's disrespectful to my mother, you know. And it's a difference between, you know, like honestly, I took a business model from Louis Vuitton as well. So when I was in my senior year at CCAD, I actually was corresponding with them back and forth for their artisan program. And of course, I don't live in Houston, so that didn't work out. But basically, I took a business model from them, and they rarely go on sale. You know, so if you see some Louis Vuitton on sale, it's usually a third party or somebody else selling theirs, but you won't never go to the Louis Vuitton store and see it on sale. So what I decided to do is, okay, this is my price. And instead of selling it, instead of putting it on a discounted rate, I would rather paint over my canvas first. So if I'm not going to sell it at that price, I'm going to reuse it. Why? Because I also had dark days where I had no supplies. So I would rather paint over a canvas piece that I already have, photograph it. I might make prints out of it, but I will not sell an original for a discounted rate. My price is my price. And that's the same with anything across the board. And that business model actually worked for me with my celebrity clientele. So now they, I like to think that it's very personal when they call, right? But I also understand that now that I'm learning the business of art, that they're also checking in on their investments, right? So so it went
so it's
from
a quality over quantity client, right?
Yeah. So it was like, at first it was like, oh wow. So one of my clients is Trina, actually, the rapper, and Evan Turner. And I used to think like, man, they just call and just sing what's up, like how I'm doing it. And I noticed it was like, so what are you working on? And it was never Trina herself, it was always her mother. And so she was like, hey baby, how you doing? What you working on lately? Like, hey, I'm doing such. That's great. Okay, I'm gonna chime back in with you and see what you're working on next. I said, okay. You know, I thought it was just real organic. And then after a while, it was like, oh, okay. Then when I started getting emails or contacted from appraisals and insurance companies, it's like, I see what you guys are doing. Okay, they want to see if I'm continuing working because they want to see if the value of that art is going to go up. So now I'm understanding more of, you know, that side of the business and everything. But make sure those clients are just, you know, organic, organic relationships that you build with, because no matter who it is or what, tax bracket they're in, like I said, I make everybody feel like they're millionaires. You know, like I said, if they're spending 150 or if they're spending 7,000, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's such good advice for any industry you're in, because success follows you when you are a good person to work with, through and through. So Ryan, tell us a little bit about how you organically build clients. You do a lot of different and unique things, I think. So take it away.
Yeah, I think the first thing is understanding, your market and understand your own value. Kind of what Bee1ne's saying is that you have to understand and come from, what is your value? What value do you bring to people? And that's going to allow you to kind of hold your price and hold your stance of, no, I'm worth the value that I'm providing. And then some. And actually, everyone's saying he makes everyone feel like they're $1 million, even if they're spending 100. You're already providing more value than it cost. And if you have that attitude, that's where I think you can stand firm of where you are. But going back to where, what I see as a client, I think anyone and the way I view clients is that anyone that I feel like that can benefit from the value that I have, the value that I bring. So basically anyone's life that I can make better is the way I view a client. And that can be, anyone that I meet on the street, can be friends, family. So I view anyone, as essentially a client, but it's not to get the sale. And that's where I think Bee1ne mentioned that no one likes to be, sold, but they all like to have, value, and they all like to have, the things that they want. And so how do I, help them reach their goals and help them reach that value or that point, they're the thing that they want in their life. So, so understanding clientele is first understanding your own value. I think you have to understand, again, what value you bring. As an artist, and that's a thing that you really have to figure out as an artist. And I'm sure that's, for real estate, I feel like it's a little easier, in my opinion, of, I understand I'm not just selling a house. I'm bringing someone security, safety, maybe some financial security, for their future, maybe helping them provide for their kids, whether it's a school district, things like that. There's a lot of things that I can say, here's my value, and I can help get, find that. As an artist, you guys provide a ton of value. A world without art would be a sad place. And I think that's where you guys got to figure out, what value are you bringing to the table that you can really make someone's life better, and understanding that. So that's how I view, I guess, before I jump into how I get clients and how I really start building my practice, is first understanding that. It allows me to have those conversations with people where I don't have to sell. It allows me to say, okay, how do I get to the point where I understand what they're looking for? Do I understand if I can even help them in their situation right now? And fortunately for me is that I don't have to sell, 1,000 pieces, or whatever it is. A few houses a month is a good, income for it's, the average realtor in Columbus, I think, is like 2 houses, or like one to 2 houses a year. Which is, there's just so many of us that it's, very few, very few of us are actually making a living wage. So the ones, it's 80% are doing, 20% are doing 80% of the work here in Columbus. And that's pretty normal probably for most markets, even I'm sure art as well. And so how do you get into that 20 percentile of doing that work where you can really start to take off and success, as Felicia and Bee1ne talked about, success breeds success. So having a little bit of, having some clients here and treating everyone, it's your first client to, your 100th client, treating them like they are the first client, and making sure that they feel that they're special, because people like to be, feel special, making them feel like they are, taken care of, and you're doing everything you can to make this, whatever you're doing for them, the best thing in the world, and going above and beyond. Fortunately for me, there's a lot of bad realtors out there, and we have kind of a bad name. So it's not that hard to step, to rise above and kind of do a good job just by simply communicating well and things like that. So that's kind of where I really focus on is not only knowing my value, but also understanding what makes me different, what makes me unique, but also, how do I do things and make them feel like they are my top priority. They are special, and they are getting the family friends treatment, even if they're not. Like Bee1ne said, like treating them like your mother. At the same time, knowing that you're and knowing that you're going to do that, so you deserve what you're being paid for that service. So there's kind of a Bee1ne's point, people asking for discounts. It's very common in the real estate world to drop your fees. There's always going to be, like, there's a study showing that 10% of people are always going to want to, the cheapest. They can either do it themselves, or they're going to get the discount price. And there's 10% of people that will actually pay more than anybody. They want to know that they're getting the highest amount of service. They're getting the best. And then there's also the 80% that want just the value. They want that value of what I'm spending, I'm getting my money and then some. And it's the 80% that I really focus on, because that's obviously the biggest pool. The 10%, that want to pay more, obviously I'm not going to turn them away when they come, but just understanding that there's still plenty of people out there. You're always going to have the bargain hunters and the people that don't value what you do. And it's, again, it's focusing on the people that do value you and making sure they are treated and getting more for what they're paying for.
Yeah, that's great. So this leads into my next question, which I still struggle with, and I think a lot of people do, is so you're building your relationships, you're making friends, you're doing all of that work to build your client base. So how and when do you, quote unquote, make the sale? Like, when do you say, hey, would you consider, hiring me for a mural? I mean, I don't know if that is the situation that works for you guys, or if people just like come to you to ask you to do things like that or commission work. For me, I am, so a lot of my job, most of my job at Wild Goose is fundraising. And to an extent that is kind of salesy in a way. I mean, I completely understand that what I am offering is a benefit, but at the same time, I'm building these relationships, right? But like, you have to at some point make the ask. So
yeah,
right, lock it in. So and that's like a weird timing thing, because every single person is different. So do you have any strategies, all three of you, for that? Or like, how do you demystify the art of making the sale?
Oh, can I go?
You go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right.
go.
So what do they say in sales? ABC, or always be selling, whatever. I start off selling like before I even open my mouth. I mean, like the way you carry yourself, you present yourself. I've actually started walking around with paint covered clothes, because people know. They know, I'm walking through Lowe's and people are intrigued by you. So I think what it is that when you, first of all, you want to draw people in, like we're talking about, knowing who you want your clientele to be. And you're a walking billboard, and you have to start off, I believe, with confidence, and don't feel ashamed. Don't be scared to talk about money. I think a lot of people are afraid of their own success, and you have to get over that immediately, right away. You need to just chuck that, because if you're afraid to ask someone to pay you for what you're worth, then maybe you should consider doing something where you're more comfortable in that realm. Because to be successful as an artist, you need to be able to engage people and also be able to sell, but to do it in a way that's tactful. Now, I'm not saying like be like a used car salesman and you're out there trying to finagle people. Like have a set price in your mind. You need to have a formula that you may have some leeway. If you choose it, you might be a person that's just like, no, this is my flat rate, period, whatever. You need to have a personal constitution about what services it is that you're providing. So I do a lot of different things, but excuse me, I'm getting a little frazzled here. What I am sure to do is to stay focused on what it is that I'm selling in that particular circumstance. Like, for example, I'm a seamstress. But if people are asking me about a mural, I don't just throw that in there and say, hey, I'm a seamstress too. You wait for it to naturally arrive in conversation. Like I did a mural at Transformation Columbus, which is this big 2-story mural that I did, that's out in Powell, Ohio. The lady that owns that place, she also has a bridal company. So it was at the appropriate time in the conversation. And I think if you're having like a natural flow of conversation and you're sociable and you're comfortable talking about money, when you're confident, people feel more comfortable about giving you money if you're comfortable talking about it. Like if you're just kind of like, yeah, I don't know, you're gonna come off being very amateur. And you know, like Bee1ne was saying, people who are purchasing art, who have a collection of art, they want to be working with people who are professional, who are at least confident enough to be arriving up and coming. People kind of want to, you know, be a part of your growth, but they want to be confident in your confidence. So I think that finding natural spaces in conversation as you're being sociable to mention those things or to bring it up.
Yeah, and I would say too, just also within those natural conversations, like listening and figuring out what they're interested in, and from that kind of being like, oh, well, maybe, you know, they clearly are looking or know somebody that's looking for a mural, things like that. So I think for me, listening is a really big piece of that, and figuring out where I can actually kind of fit something in that would provide a benefit. Bee1ne, what about you?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, can you rephrase that question one more time? Because it was something that you had said in the beginning of your question that I wanted to chime in on. It was because of actually what you were saying, that you're in fundraising and you didn't salesy. So could you go back to that
Yeah,
question?
well, I basically was saying, like, you know, you are building your relationships and you're putting in all that work, but you can't keep just building a relationship and never make an ask if that's what
Right.
your goal is with somebody at some point.
Right.
So when do you make that decision? Like, okay, now is the time, you know, they've participated, they've done this and this and this at Wild Goose Creative. When do you make that sale? Like, when is it appropriate?
So even like for myself, Lydia, our relationship, for example, when you were like, hey, would you be interested in doing, you know, a monthly thing for Wild Goose? Hell yeah, why not? You know, because it was like, at this point, you know, honestly, nobody just asked me. That's what it was. Nobody asked me. So you got to remember, I've been working with Wild Goose before you were around.
I know.
In 2014. So it's like nobody ever asked, but Wild Goose actually helped contribute to my career a lot, you know? So it was a no-brainer for me. And I think for you, honestly, keep doing what you're doing, because you're very organic on the relationships you build and the people you talk to. You're very open. So I think just keep on doing what you're doing. And in the end, once you have that, you know, feel comfortable enough, yeah, don't be afraid to ask them, hey, you know, you come here often. I don't see you on the, you know, blah, blah, blah. Hey, how do you feel about contributing monthly for the arts? You know, because I definitely feel, and I'm going to sound biased with this one, but after being in Miami and seeing all these galleries, I definitely feel Wild Goose could be up there on that upper echelon gallery for Columbus. And I want that because that's home, like, you know, so
Yes,
I
I love
definitely
that.
want that because that's home. And I know that in the future, that's, you know, where I'm going to also be doing my main shows. So I want that persona or that presence from Wild Goose. So get those people to invest in Wild Goose, you know?
I'm
So
trying.
yeah, and you're doing a great job. So don't doubt
Thank
yourself.
you.
Don't devalue yourself. And that's another thing when it comes to artists and everything. Like sometimes we devalue ourselves, anybody for that matter. And when you think about it, the people we are quote unquote selling to, or when we sell to someone, why would they want something that's devalued? You know, when it comes to the art, whether it comes to investing in Wild Goose why would you want it for a lower amount? Even what Ryan does, you know, like, why would you want your house to be so undervalued? Because when you go to sell it, now guess what? Well, you bought it for this amount. Now it's probably going to be the regular, you know, amount for that house. So you want to invest more, you know, if you can, you know, or heighten the value of that work, you know. And that's what, honestly, the art dealers I've come across, they say that they don't disclose prices. Literally, they don't disclose prices because they might sell the work, you know, 10%, 20% more than the asking price or the listed price. Why? Because now that artwork goes up in value. Now that's an investment. It's just like stock. And I think if we all look at ourselves as stock or a brand or something of that nature, we could also continue to put that value, you know, continue to upgrade our value, you know. So as far as being salesy, I don't think you're doing that at all. So you're doing a great job with that organic relationship building, because even over the years, like I said, Wild Goose is like home, but I've never interacted with WGC as much until you came around. So that's another thing. So you're doing great, you know, so don't
Thank
doubt
you.
yourself on that. And as far as myself, I just honestly, I ask for what I want. And
Nice.
and, if they don't like it, you know, they can, you know, I'm not mean about it or anything, but they can go somewhere else, you know. So, because there's plenty of artists out here, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be an artist who will do it for cheaper, definitely. But I want the people who are going to pay for my work. You know, I work hard for this, what I do, and I want to be compensated for it. You know, they don't know about those sleeping on the bed, you know, on the beach nights, or, you know, 80 grand in CCAD student loans and stuff like that, you know. So nobody is what they say, that nobody's shooting with me in the gym, you know. So why, you know, why would I actually, you know, give away, you know, something I've worked hard on, you know. So don't devalue yourself. And
That's great advice. And thank you for that encouragement. I really appreciate it. And I also think, in addition, and it's a good point about like looking at yourself as stock almost, and what you beyond just the art that you provide, because I'm always talking about, like, you know, artists maybe should consider looking at their art as more of a product, and a business, and looking at it like you are an entrepreneur and a small business owner in a sense. But I think, and in addition to what Felicia said, like, it's you too. I mean, it's your brand, like you are your
right,
art, and you have to carry yourself in that, in all the relationships that you have, regardless of if it ends in a sale or not. So I'm going to have Brian answer this last question, and then we'll go on to Q&A because we're almost out of time. So Brian, how do you make the sale, and when do you do that?
well, honestly.
Oh wait, can we have just Ryan?
Oh,
Ryan.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Ryan's too common of a name.
Right, Brian. Ryan.
Oh yeah, I
good.
said Brian. Yeah, I said
Yeah.
Bryant. Ryan. Yeah.
All good. Yeah. So for me, you know, fortunately, you know, what I do is I care for people even before they're ready for the sale. So when they are ready to buy that house, they know who to go to. They know, you know, so I invest in people's lives enough to where I know that they, you know, there's enough people where if they need to buy or sell a home, they know who to go to. Just like if they're looking for, graffiti art, they know who to go to. So that's kind of the way I operate. So when it comes to asking for the sale, there's not much ask. It's more of, I've been caring for them the whole time and built a relationship that it's just, it's a no-brainer for both of us to, hey, let's partner and let's work together and let's reach your goals. And that's kind of how I operate. Now for artists, there's going to be times obviously where you have to understand your value and understand you have to ask for a sale. And that's kind of where you got to find that fine line of, what Felicia said earlier, the ABCs of sales will always be closing. And my motto
that's what it was.
Always be closing. Always be closing. That's what. And I kind of try to flip that as always be caring for people. Always be caring for them.
Nice.
How do I help? How do I
like that.
Write that one down.
Yeah. So, and then another way of really going for the sale is going back to understanding what are people's needs. You're not gonna be able to sell them if you don't understand what they're really needing. So when they're just browsing, I've been in enough art galleries where I've just browsed and I don't know what I'm looking for, but it's finding what people are looking for. And the way to do that is by asking questions. You ask them about their previous art purchases, ask them what they like about art, ask them what they like about whatever, and get into their, they also want to know who they're buying from. They buy, I can, guarantee that you guys have sold more based on relationships than, probably Instagram. And Instagram's a great way to build relationships, but if you can leverage your Instagram or your social media to be a starting point to building relationships and getting to know people. Like I just reached out to a musician that my wife and I love, and my daughter actually really loves listening. She's 1 year old and loves it. And he replied back on his Instagram account. That was such a big deal for me, but it's like, it's like kind of a step of building that relationship. He reached out, he did something simple, but actually, he has, even though it's a very shallow relationship, it's still there. But, can you imagine that if we actually got to know each other, how much more I would spend on their stuff? And I kind of look at that as you guys, the more you guys get to know people, the more they're willing to value your time and your art. They don't see you as a commodity. They see you as a human. Mm-hmm. And that's the key. You guys aren't selling widgets. You're selling relationships. You're selling yourself as a value proposition, and what you do. And you got to understand your hour per dollar too. Like, you spend a lot of time on your art. There's a lot of time that 60, 80, you say 80 grand on school. That's an investment.
CCAD is not cheap.
Yeah, it's not. That's an investment you guys have made. That to sell your art for $10 a piece, that's not going to pay for that. So you got to understand that you guys have this background that no one else has, that hasn't gone through what you've gone to. Just like in real estate, I tell experience, like, are you going to work with the person that gives you a discount? Because unless they're selling house, they're a discount broker. They see themselves as a discount. Are you really getting the value out of what you're really getting into? So I see myself as a value. If they pay full price, they're getting full price and then some. But if you pay a discount price, you're actually getting less than what you're paying for most of the time. The service, you're not getting the attention that you really need on this. So I can go on all day, but I guess for me, the sale happens by actually talking to people and understanding where is it that you find their problems. And one of the ways to do that is just by asking questions. Be engaged, be interested. I always say interested is interesting. So being interested in someone, people are going to be interested in what you do. They're going to ask you the questions. They're going to ask you how they're going to learn more about your process. They're going to really engage in what you do and understand that. And then there's a point where there's going to say, okay, they're going to ask you, hopefully, how much is this, how do I buy this? Eventually, how do I make this happen? How do I figure out how to get your art, or how do I find somebody that can buy your art? And things like that, if you do that enough. So that's how I close, is basically by just being interested in helping people out.
People support who they like.
Yes,
they sure do.
People support who they like.
Yep.
And like Ryan was saying, just imagine how much more money he would spend if that artist, like, if they keep going with the conversation, if they keep building together. Ryan might buy more music, just because I like this guy as a person.
Yeah.
I already like his music, but I like him as a person now.
Yeah.
So, and that right there has been very beneficial for me, because people will meet me and they'll be like, oh, you know what? You're cool.
Yeah.
I think it's social media gives a perception or a persona to where sometimes that we're like not what's the word I'm looking for?
Human.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I guess we could say human. Yeah, because people meet me in person, they be like, "Oh man, you're so cool. I didn't think so." Like, what? what makes you think that? And I think the like social media following is intimidating to people. But I will hit up anybody with a blue check. It doesn't matter. All that is irrelevant to me, because I've gotten projects from people with 200 followers and following 3,000 people. So, don't look at social media either. Like, that shit is bogus.
Yeah,
it's a tool.
It's a tool.
Yeah, it's a tool.
So we are about out of time. So if anyone needs to hop off, feel free. But if you have any questions, we'll just take a couple if anyone wants to ask